culture and gender. According to John Story, a British media specialist, pop culture can be defined with 6 different definitions, but one of them is pop culture as mass culture. He defines pop culture as commercial objects produced for mass consumption by non-discriminating consumers, and that the culture itself is formulaic, manipulative. In simpler words, pop culture is the cultural activities and products consumed and appreciated by the general public, and it plays a significant role in shaping societal norms, perceptions, and beliefs with the ideologies and portrayals it brings forth to the mass. This means that every piece of pop culture reflects the norms and values of society at a particular time and can both reinforce and challenge existing norms or values. And for this video essay, we will try to see how popular culture products by the Evil Dead franchise reinforced and challenged these existing norms and values, especially in relation to gender. But first, let's align our definitions of what gender is to avoid confusion from here and forth. Gender and sex are 2 different things. Sex is biological and gender is socially constructed. According to Trier-Bionic and Levy in their book Gender and Pop Culture, gender consists of the ideas we have about masculinity and femininity and how we apply these notions to people based on their designated sex assignment. So, if someone's biological sex is female, she is expected to enact femininity as defined by society in a given historical time. One of the roles of popular culture is, therefore, to reinforce or challenge gender roles and expectations. In this case, we will dig deeper into how the Evil Dead franchise reinforces and challenges the notion of how femininity should be enacted by women.
Now that we have talked about popular culture, gender, and their relations, let us preview with a short explanation of the Evil Dead franchise that we will use for our case study in this video essay. The Evil Dead is an American horror franchise created by Sam Raimi with plots that usually revolved around a cursed book, Necronomicon Ex Mortis, that wreaks havoc once read by the poor characters. It once consisted of only a trilogy of movies, The Evil Dead 1981, Evil Dead 2 1987, and Army of Darkness 1992, and has expanded to include many forms of media such as television series, musicals, comics, and even video games. The franchise has also undergone a significant evolution in its portrayal of women, moving beyond the traditional tropes of damsels in distress and objectifying women to cater to the male gaze. With its latest releases, The Evil Dead 2013 and The Evil Dead Rise 2023, we can witness the emergence of more complex and empowered female characters. Yet, despite this progress, there still remains room for improvement, such as the franchise's problematic sexualization of violence against women via the gore horror elements the franchise takes pride in.
In the Evil Dead movie from 2013, directed by Fede Alvarez, we witness an almost departure from the archetypal damsel in distress trope often associated with the horror genre, particularly the Evil Dead franchise. The protagonist, Mia, is a strong and resilient character who struggles with addiction, bringing a unique layer of complexity to her role. She fights not only against the demonic forces tormenting her, but also battles her personal demons. This portrayal challenges the conventional expectations of women in horror films, showcasing a female character who possesses agency, strength, and determination. However, while not as evident as the originals and the women have much more to do, there are still some traces of the damsel in distress trope in the 2013 Evil Dead. Women still need to be saved, or they are just there to torment the men, and they don't receive as much characterization as the male characters. For instance, the supporting female characters, Olivia and Natalie, are so quick to be pushed to the side or die, being the first characters to be possessed after Mia. Even Mia herself, despite being the main character, mostly only shines in the last 15 minutes of the movie, as she spends ample time being confined in the basement for the whole of the movie, all while David and Eric are shown to find ways in undoing the curse, being the hero at the end of the day, albeit Mia being the one who actually ends the curse since they died before the curse was undone. Nevertheless, this final act of Mia's 15 minutes, which is a fight to save herself from the horrors of the Necronomicon after everyone else is dead, gives a glimpse at what the franchise has become despite its weaknesses.
On the other hand, The Evil Dead Rise marked a further departure from the previous films in the franchise, introducing a new setting and also a fresh cast of characters. Set in a gritty downtown LA high-rise apartment building, the film focuses on Ellie, her two daughters, Bridget and Cassie, her son Danny, who is played by a trans actor, Morgan Davies, bringing important representation to the franchise, and Ellie's sister, Beth. Unlike the earlier films, there is no group of friends and no cabin in the woods. This installment takes a different direction in terms of storytelling and themes. One of the new themes introduced in The Evil Dead Rise is the theme of motherhood. At the beginning of the movie, Beth discovers that she is pregnant and, in fear, then decides to visit Ellie for support and guidance. Even though Ellie got possessed very early before Beth could even tell her about her pregnancy, the movie still gives a sufficient portrayal of motherhood, such as when Ellie convinced Beth to protect her children as she loses control of her own body, or when Beth bonded with Cassie after the rest of their family have been possessed, where Cassie pointed out that Beth would be a good mother.
You know how to lie to kids.
Women in this franchise, especially when possessed, sometimes become over-sexualized to the point where it just gets old. While this isn't common in the original films, it is very evident in the Star's original Ash vs. Evil Dead. It's nearly every time a woman gets possessed that directly sexualizes them. Beyond this, women never had much else to do in the franchise. For the most part, they were confined to either being the traditional damsel in distress or becoming a T-type to torment Ash. The 2013 remake still suffers from this a bit. While the film does show efforts in breaking away from some gender stereotypes, the remake still perpetuates the sexualization of violence against women through its graphic scenes of gore and torture. This serves to titillate and entertain the audience at the expense of female characters' dignity and well-being. One notable example is the infamous tree rape scene, where the character Mia is sexually assaulted by a possessed tree in a graphic and disturbing manner. This scene, while intended to create shock and horror, crosses the line into sexualization of violence against women, using the female body as an object for titillation rather than presenting a nuanced exploration of horror. One media website wrote, "The infamous tree assault scene in The Evil Dead has aged terribly, and the first film does not grant much agency to its female characters outside of them holding emotional leverage over Ash's internal turmoil of being forced to kill the people he loves."
On the contrary, The Evil Dead Rise 2023, which comes 10 years after the last film's release, eliminates the sexual violence against women that were present in the franchise's previous iterations, providing a more inclusive and respectful portrayal while still retaining its disturbing and intense nature. This movie is also the first fully female-led entry in the franchise, with both Sutherland and Sullivan easily taking the spotlight here. There are true lines of emotional baggage, familial expectations, and difficult choices where women can be both empathic and a force to be reckoned with, which includes being a terrifying demonic force. Many horror films portray females perversely, not only victimizing them but sexualizing them as well. These kinds of portrayals are impactful to evoke visual pleasures in the audience and could also be a reflection of what the audience expects to see. Our society has found it normal for the horror genre to sexualize or victimize a woman, which results in the audience expecting there will be one in every movie scene. In a way, this phenomenon of sexualization of violence against women is also similar to how problematic pornography depicts violence against women, arousing. Even though nowadays the horror genre has started to leave this behind, it is still common for audiences to see one in a horror movie.
As such, over the years, Sam Raimi has faced backlash for including the rape scene and has expressed regrets regarding its inclusion. He acknowledges that it was unnecessary, gratuitous, and too brutal. Raimi's intention as a filmmaker is not to offend but rather to entertain, thrill, scare, and make the audience laugh. He admits that his judgment was somewhat flawed at the time. These criticisms and concerns are echoed by some audience members and critics who argue for a disruption of the typical horror movie narrative. They emphasize the need to send a clear message that titillating rape scenes have no place in contemporary storytelling and should remain buried in the past, never to be resurrected. The focus is on challenging the prevailing norms and rejecting the objectification of women for titillation purposes. Regarding the response from the producer and director of the Evil Dead franchise, there may be various approaches taken to address the issues raised by the audience. It is important to consider ongoing discussions and potential plans for future installments or adaptations of the franchise. This may involve a reassessment of storytelling choices, a commitment to more respectful portrayals of women, and efforts to challenge stereotypes associated with gender. In analyzing the broader efforts made to improve gender representation and challenge stereotypes, it is evident that the discourse surrounding women's objectification in media is evolving. There is a growing recognition of the importance of nuanced, empowering, and diverse portrayals of women. Filmmakers, including Sam Raimi, are increasingly mindful of the need to be sensitive to audience concerns and to contribute to a more inclusive and respectful cinematic landscape.
Evil Dead, which was released in 2013, and The Evil Dead Rise, which was released in 2023, have made significant progress in portraying female characters who defy traditional horror tropes of damsel in distress in comparison to the rest of the media produced by the franchise. The franchise use of graphic violence and the sexualization of violence against women, however, raises concerns and criticisms, such as the controversial rape scene in The Evil Dead that has faced significant backlash over the years, about which the director Sam Raimi has expressed regrets for. All in all, the key themes and elements related to gender in the Evil Dead franchise reflect both progress and areas for improvement. While the inclusion of complex and empowered female characters in the Evil Dead and the Evil Dead Rise is commendable, the franchise reliance on gore and violence presents a challenge. The graphic nature of the film can inadvertently perpetuate harmful stereotypes and normalize the sexualization of violence against women. Nonetheless, by challenging prevailing norms, rejecting objectification, and providing female characters with agency and depth, the horror genre can persist to evolve and offer more engaging narratives. Thus, it is critical to balance the need for entertainment and the franchise signature horror elements with responsible storytelling that avoids exploiting and or objectifying female characters.